What up, guys? Your boy Quake, and Eminem has finally come out of his dungeon to do a new interview. But before we get into that, be sure to follow me on Twitter and on Instagram at QuakeGW. A link is in the description below for both. As you guys know, in January, Eminem surprisingly released his 11th studio album, Music to Be Murdered By. And usually when Eminem releases an album, he has an interview come out with it just to basically talk about the album and what he's been up to. But recently, we did not get an interview right after the album came out. It actually took almost about a month. And about 3 days ago, he released a new interview, this time on Crooked I's own show, Crook's Corner. Crooked I is 1/4 member of Slaughterhouse, who used to be signed to Eminem's Shady Records. So, of course, Crooked I and Eminem have a great relationship, and Eminem decided to do an exclusive interview just with him. And I wanted to do a video kind of breaking down the interview because it's very interesting. It reveals a lot of things about Eminem that we did not know before. And the great thing about this interview is that Crooked I is a rapper, so it's basically a rapper to rapper conversation. And you can tell during the interview, both of them talk about a lot of things that mainly rappers would know, professionally about. So the first thing that didn't surprise me was that Eminem said he's basically a fan of hip-hop, knows the history of it, and that's something that we all know. If you're really a legend and someone that's great at making hip-hop music, you definitely have to know the history, study it, and try to become better than the ones that came before you. But the thing that did surprise me was that Eminem had a lot of the old lyrics from older rappers memorized in his head, word for word, which is crazy because nowadays a lot of rappers don't even know their own songs. So that kind of threw me off and surprised me. It just shows how big Eminem is a fan of hip-hop. Now, what did surprise me was that Eminem actually keeps up with all the current music that comes out. Usually these older artists, we tend to think, do not keep up with the current state of hip-hop, but in order to remain relevant, you definitely have to keep up with it. So I'm not really surprised, but I am surprised. The surprising thing that Eminem said was that every Saturday, he tries to sit back and listen to whatever new that came out. And that kind of makes sense because every Friday there's new music that comes out on Apple Music and all these streaming platforms. And the artists that he mentioned that are new that he listens to, he says heavily, is Young M.A. He said he saw her, heard her track, Ooh, and then said he went down the wormhole and just basically started listening to her music and really enjoyed it. Another artist he mentioned was YBN Cordae. He's fairly new, just released one album, and he's very talented as well, so I'm sure those two are happy as hell to get shout-outs. The next thing in the interview that was mentioned that surprised me was Crooked I giving Eminem props as a producer. Now, this is a thing that a lot of people sleep on. Even Crooked I in the interview said Eminem as a producer is very underrated, and a lot of the songs that I've heard that I really liked were actually produced by Eminem, and I myself was surprised when I look at the credits for a lot of these songs. If you guys don't know, Lloyd Banks' first single off his debut album, On Fire, was produced by Eminem, which surprised me. Then his first single off his second album, Hands Up, was produced by Eminem. Akon's Smack That was produced by Eminem. All kinds of tracks that were #1 hits were produced by Eminem. So I'm glad this was brought up by Crooked I because if I was interviewing Eminem, I would ask him the same thing. Does he feel he's underrated as a producer? I feel like he is. But then again, Eminem hasn't produced really outside of the Aftermath / G-Unit camp at that time. He produced a few artists, like I said, Akon, but mainly he was in the Shady Aftermath camp. So that's why he's probably looked at as underrated, but he's an amazing producer. I wish he would produce more, maybe produce someone's entire album. That would be something I would listen to immediately. Now, God willing, if I ever get the chance to interview Eminem, I would ask him as a producer, what happened to this track with Kid Cudi? There was a song that came out that leaked online called I Hear Them Calling by Kid Cudi. It was leaked. Only the hook is on the track, but the song is produced by Eminem. If you're watching this video, pause this video, go on YouTube, search Kid Cudi, I Hear Them Calling. This track is fucking amazing. This is when Kid Cudi was at his prime, when he just released his debut album, and everyone was going crazy over him. I want to ask Eminem what happened to this track. I want to ask Kid Cudi what happened to this track. Why did it leak? Why was it never finished? I love the track. The hook is so catchy and dope, and the production by Eminem is something just so special. And another track that Eminem produced that ended up being my favorite 50 Cent track of all time is obviously Places to Go. He killed that production. 50 killed the whole song, and it was just completely perfect. I argue it as my favorite 50 Cent song of all time. Sometimes it goes to number 2, number 3, but basically it's in my top 3 of all time. I'm just glad, it was mentioned in this interview because it never gets mentioned in an Eminem interview. Like I said, if I get to interview him, I'll definitely ask him a lot more about his production side. What beats is he hiding? Why hasn't he ever produced a full album? So on and so forth. Moving on, another thing that surprised me was Eminem decided to address Lord Jamar once again. In the interview, Crooked I asked him, what do you feel about, having Lord Jamar say basically white people are a guest in hip hop? And Eminem directly answered that question and said he is a guest in hip hop, and that's not a surprise at all. What Lord Jamar was saying was that Eminem is this and that, and he claims to be the king. And ironically enough, Eminem has never said that. He's never actually even degraded other artists in hip hop, unless he's gotten into a beef or a battle, of course. But he's never shitted on the previous history of artists or anything like that. He's actually shown the culture a lot of respect. And throughout the interview, Crooked I, calls him a goat and all this stuff and compliments him. And Eminem just basically deflects it and gives props to other artists throughout the whole interview, which just shows how much respect he has for the culture. Even though Eminem has addressed Lord Jamar in various tracks, it was nice to hear him directly address the comments that Lord Jamar said about him being a guest in hip-hop. Moving on, he talks about Juice WRLD, and as you guys know, Juice WRLD has passed. So Eminem released a track with him on the album called The Godzilla, and Juice WRLD recorded it obviously before he passed. So this is the first track that came out after he passed, and it charted at number 3 in the Billboard Hot 100, so it did very well. But Eminem basically ends up praising Juice WRLD, which kind of surprised me, and it kind of didn't, because Juice WRLD ended up releasing a long freestyle, basically an hour long, on Tim Westwood, and Eminem said he saw it and appreciated how talented he is, and I'm sure after that he hit him up to do a track. Another thing that I really liked was that Crooked I mentioned that a bunch of boom bap, those type of people that love just boom bap hip hop and basically shit on anything that's new. He mentions that, he tweeted that he liked Juice WRLD, and a bunch of boom bap people messaged him and said, he's whack, he's corny, he's auto-tuned, this and that. Those are the people that I tend to dislike a lot because they're not open-minded to the new artists that are coming in hip-hop. They just assume all of them are not lyrical at all and they're all garbage, when that's not the case, guys. You got to be more open-minded, accept newer artists. Just because they're doing a newer style doesn't mean that they're whack lyrically. So I'm glad Crooked I mentioned that, because you got to learn to accept what's new. Obviously, you don't have to like every single thing that comes out in hip-hop, but hip-hop changes. Things change, and not every artist that's new that's coming out is whack. You have to have open ears and listen to the new stuff. Obviously, there's going to be whack stuff, and there's going to be good stuff that just comes with the territory. Anyways, those are the parts in the interview that I really enjoyed and that surprised me and that didn't surprise me. So check out the interview. I'll leave a link in the description below. It's very dope. It's about a little over an hour long, and Eminem talks about everything. And what I really like about this interview is that it shows how passionate Eminem is. Yeah, we hear it in the music. Yeah, we know he tries his ass off when it comes to the lyrics and just puts in the time and work. But to hear him just casually talk, about music and his appreciation for it was very dope. So shout out to Crooked I for the interview. It was amazing. I really enjoyed it. Honestly, there wasn't a second that I was zoned out of it. Usually in some interviews when I watch them, I kind of just zone out and forget that I'm even watching it because I'm thinking about something else. But on this interview, I was really tuned in. So go ahead and check it out in the description below. Let me know what you guys think of the interview. What was your favorite part? What surprised you? What didn't? Let me know. So with that being said, if you want to support this channel further, you can do so at patreon.com/diverse mentality. For just $1 a month or more, you can help support this channel further. A link is in the description below. Like, comment, share, and definitely subscribe. I do videos like this daily on hip hop news and much more, so definitely subscribe. Follow me on Twitter and on Instagram at QuakeGW. Like us on Facebook, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.